understand the process, I'm now going to open it up to questions.
How are trade facilitators different than hiring a regular commercial real estate broker to help me?
So a trade facilitator is a licensed real estate broker, experienced in the field. The difference is the trade facilitator is going to work within the portal to basically mix and match properties. They are not going to the outside market looking for property, they're looking at it inside our portal. And their responsibility is to make sure that they look at the trade properties on a regular basis and make a mix and match of those for our clients.
So who are your trade facilitators and what sort of training do they have?
Our trade facilitators are experienced real estate brokers, many of which have worked in the business for a number of years. They're very, very knowledgeable in handling subleases and handling negotiations with landlords traditionally. The beauty of trade addresses is that when our trade facilitator comes to visit you, they're working as both a trade facilitator for trade addresses, but also if you decide that you want to look for space conventionally in the open market or put your property for sublease, they're certainly in a position to basically help you in that market as well.
How long will the process take to trade my space?
It depends on when a trade property comes into the portal that actually works for you, but once a trade occurs, our process is far more expedient than if you put the property on the market for sublease without a tenant. Because by the time you find a trade in the portal, we already have the tenant, so now it just becomes a question of agreeing on the terms and conditions and going to visit the landlord.
If I need to sublease my space, why wouldn't I just go to a broker and market the space on the open market?
You can do that, but because there's no space in the open market, what Trade Addresses does is give you a new way to find space. So within the portal, we will present properties to you that wouldn't otherwise be on the market. Therefore, you have more of an opportunity to give yourself a search that actually makes sense. You have a search that can go to the outside traditional way, or you can find space that may not be on the market.
So, if I need to sublease my space, why wouldn't I just go to a regular broker and have the space listed on the open market for sublease?
So in your lease, if you decide you want to sublease your space, you must immediately notify the landlord of your intent to sublease. Once you notify the landlord of his intent to sublease, in most leases, the landlord has a right to what's called recapture your space immediately upon notice, which means that if you sublease your space, they can recapture the space and immediately release you from your obligation. The problem is, traditionally, is if you put your space in the open market and you don't have a space to go to, you now have a double problem. You have a problem where you no longer have a space and you have no place to go to. What Trade Addresses does is solve that problem ahead of time, because we never go to the landlord to say we're subleasing until we actually have a tenant for that space. When we approach the landlord at that time, we say we want to sublease the space, here is the tenant. If they say they want to recapture, the only reason why the landlord is going to recapture is because he feels he can get a higher rate of return or a higher market rate for the space. The tenant that wants that space understands that he may have to pay market rate. His main concern is not what the cost is of the market rate, he just needs the space. So we could then go to the landlord and say, Mr. Landlord, don't recapture the space, we have the tenant for you. You want to do a direct deal? No problem. We'll give you the tenant and then you can release us from our sublease obligation. That's the advantage of Trade Address.
Well, that sounds great. So, how do you get paid?
So we have a non-exclusive arrangement with you that the only time you owe money to Trade Addresses if we successfully find a trade property within Trade Addresses. If that occurs, you owe us a 4% fee on your remaining sublease term. This does not preclude you from not hiring a broker to handle the sublease agreement. If you choose to do that, you would pay your sublease broker a normal fee in the open market.
So will you cooperate with my broker if I find a trade on Trade Addresses?
Absolutely. If you want your broker to handle the negotiations of the actual sublease, not a problem. You would basically be responsible for his cost, and you would still owe us our normal fee of 4%, but you can certainly have your broker handle the negotiations for you. So if you're in a situation where you need bigger or smaller space, come to our website and we'll streamline the process with our off-market listings. We look forward to trading with you.